Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the month of Marioctober, where we will provide you with a series of Mario-related content all throughout the otherwise spooky month. With Super Mario Odyssey around the corner, it's time to revisit the other 3D juggernauts of the series, Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine. Releasing in 1996, Super Mario 64 was the prime example of how to make a 3D game in an era where some developers were struggling to get it right. 6 years later, in 2002, Super Mario Sunshine was released on the GameCube, building off of the revolutionary formula established by its predecessor. Both games were met with critical acclaim, with Mario 64 standing at a 94 on Metacritic and Sunshine at a 92. Even though there are only 13 critic reviews for Mario 64 as opposed to Sunshine's 61, the user score speaks volumes about how the general consensus feels about the two games, with Mario 64 at a 9.2 and Sunshine at an 8.6. It's very clear that most people prefer Mario 64, so why is this? We will find out with the following categories: Hub World, Music, Controls, Level Design, and Gameplay. The winner of this game versus game battle will be the one to go up against Super Mario Odyssey later this month. So without further ado, let the battle between Super Mario 64 and Sunshine begin. It's not a 3D Mario game without a hub world. Okay, used to be. But there is no denying that hub worlds were a favorite among 3D Mario fans. Beginning with Peach's Castle from Super Mario 64. Here, Mario jumps through the castle's paintings that act as portals to other locations throughout the Mushroom Kingdom. In order to access more areas, he needs to collect power stars to unlock doors and win boss battles against Bowser to get keys to new areas of the castle. Not only that, but the castle also contains secrets of its own, like hidden courses, power stars, and pillars that are destined to be pounded. Then there is Super Mario Sunshine's Delfino Plaza, which connects all the locations of Isle Delfino one way or another. Thanks to the antics of Shadow Mario, who is totally not Bowser Jr., spoilers, the popular locations of Isle Delfino are accessible through graffiti portals. Not too different from paintings. Art is art, who are you to judge? Much like Peach's Castle, Mario must collect power stars, or in this case, shine sprites, to further access the game's other areas. Only, instead of simply unlocking them, they will trigger an event like, say, a building getting covered by graffiti, or Shadow Mario stealing a Yoshi egg. Delfino Plaza also has secret power stars and courses of its own hidden in secret pathways or across the shoreline. The key difference between Peach's Castle and Delfino Plaza is that the plaza feels much more exciting to wander around. Granted, the developers did have a lot more power to work with from the GameCube, and in that process, they created a lively town filled with energetic citizens, some of which provide you with tasks like gathering fruit. So while Peach's Castle gets credit for the idea of the Mario Hub World, Delfino Plaza gets credit for perfecting that idea. Super Mario Sunshine wins this battle for the Hub World. Which Mario game has the best music? The answer is simple: either of the Galaxy games. But since they're not in this episode, we're stuck with the soundtracks for Mario 64 and Sunshine. Famed Nintendo composer and musical god Koji Kondo is the mastermind behind the music of these games, and like all of his projects, he did not phone it in for either of them. For Mario 64, he could have easily just rehashed the tracks from the 2D Mario games, and while he did use elements from the 2D tracks, to say they are rehashed would be an absolute lie. Who could forget the song from Bob-omb Battlefield, the course we all visited firsthand, or the peaceful sounds of Jolly Roger Bay? How about the spooky sounds of Big Boo's haunt? Oh my god, a piano! The soundtrack in Super Mario 64 is diverse, touching base with many different themes. The downside is that we hear some of the same tracks in multiple courses, like hearing the Snow Mountain theme in Snowman's Land because, snow. Fortunately, Sunshine does not have this problem. Each course has its own track with the exception of the special stages. But that's about the only thing better about this soundtrack. Since the game is set on a tropical island, the music is restricted to that theme, and as a result, Each composition gives a very pleasant vacation vibe. While the music in Sunshine does indeed sound better thanks to the additional power of the GameCube, it isn't nearly as memorable as the music in Mario 64, which is why that game wins the battle for music. It has been an extremely long time since I played both of these games, so I thought it would be appropriate to revisit them before writing this episode, and it's sections like these that make replaying these games worth it. Super Mario 64, for example, means a lot to a ton of people, and how could it not? It was a revolution in 3D game development. Naturally, this means that even the developers at Nintendo were trying to figure out how best to make a 3D game for a series that dominated the 2D market. For its time, Mario 64 did a lot of things right, such as the camera being quite literally controlled by a Lakitu. Back then, there were practically no 3D games that had such a unique camera. But today, controlling that camera can be quite cumbersome, especially on a modern controller since the camera was designed for the Nintendo 64 controller's C buttons and not the GameCube controller's C stick like in Sunshine. Sunshine has a better camera, but it's still a pain to maneuver in high-stress situations. Now, I don't know if you know about this, but Mario games are platformers, and platformers require good controls. Well, that goes for all games. Anyway, jumping has always been a staple in Mario games since the very first one, Donkey Kong, and the same still applies in these two 3D juggernauts. However, you'll find that in Mario 64, it's a little hard to jump on enemies since controlling Mario mid-flight is damn near impossible. So as a result, the developers added in punching, which works sometimes. Maybe I just need to get good. 64 also introduced Mario to different ways of jumping, like the triple jump, crouch jump, backflip, wall jump, you name it. Though the biggest problem Mario 64 has is moving. Mario is extremely slippery, so it's easy to slip off of platforms to your demise, and it can be very hard to land a jump. I do believe that if the game had controls more akin to the latest 3D Marios, that it would take some of the challenge out of 64, but it's better to have a game that's challenging because of the obstacles it places in front of you, and not for having less than user-friendly controls. However, I recognize that most of this has to do with Super Mario 64 being one of the first games of its kind, so not everything was perfect. Thankfully, they knew this when developing Mario Sunshine, and as a result, the game takes the controls in Mario 64 and makes them better. This may have to do with your water device Flood, who helps you out immensely with its hover nozzle. If I missed a jump, hovering was my way to get back into action. You also can't punch in this game, because Flood will do most of the attacking. Regardless, there are times where you play as Mario without Flood in these secret levels, and while some of them do get flack for being too hard, at least Mario is easy to control in them. I played Sunshine right after 64 for the sake of this episode, and I felt a night and day difference in their controls. Even without Flood, Sunshine feels a lot more fluid than 64, to the point where I no longer felt I had to be on my tippy toes to make sure I didn't fall. Super Mario Sunshine wins the battle for controls. The way both of these games handle their level design is very different. Part of it has to do with the technology at their times of release, and another part of it has to do with visual presentation. In Mario 64, the developers had to introduce 2D Mario players to 3D environments, which is where the Bob-omb Battlefield came into play. There are no bottomless pits to fall down, players can go anywhere they want, and the biggest threat they had to face were rolling boulders. It was one of the best opening levels to a game in history. Most of these 15 courses have a definitive finish line to them, usually leading to a boss and/or power star. The finish line would naturally be the first star mission, but you would have to come back later to gather red coins or achieve other objectives within the sandbox environments. Some of these levels are set on a floating island, meaning bottomless pits, another franchise staple, are everywhere in this game. Earlier in the music section, we talked about the soundtrack being diverse to reflect the themes of the levels. And that's another good word to describe each course in the game. Diverse. Ranging from a haunted mansion, a winter wonderland with a giant snowman head, a strange dock with robots that like to throw you, a literal clock tower, you name it. The levels in Super Mario Sunshine are also a lot like the music in that game, restricted by the tropical theme, at least visually. Mechanically, they are astounding. They're larger than the ones in 64 and have a lot going on within them, especially Peanut Park, which is filled with mechanical rides. However, each level contains a secret area which Mario has to go through without the help of FLUDD. I may have gotten the hang of these levels now, but make no mistake, they can be a serious challenge and a nuisance to overcome. There are also some bonus stages you can use with FLUDD, like this thing. No thank you. Either way, it was tough to figure out which game would be the winner for this battle, but after some thinking, I've come to the conclusion that Super Mario 64 would be the appropriate winner, thanks to its more creative liberties in level design. I mean, there's a course where you jump between a big island and a little island. How crazy is that? I do enjoy Super Mario Sunshine's levels quite a bit, but we cannot deny that Mario 64 has the overall better level design. This is it. The most important part of any game in the last category to determine which game goes up against Super Mario Odyssey. Of course, Super Mario 64 gets some credit for cementing the formula for 3D Mario. There is a hub world. Each level has power stars or shine sprites to gather, and you have to complete different missions to get them. These missions vary from racing Koopa the Quick, letting the eel come out to play, or trying to get past this damn snowman head without falling off. Some of these missions are a little too easy, while some are a fair challenge, especially in the later courses. The most common first star being a boss, like the King Bob-omb and the Womp King, and they're anything but hard. We could have made bosses its own section here in this episode, but that would have been too easy of a win for Super Mario Sunshine. Then there is the case of Bowser, who you fight 3 times within the game by sneaking up behind him and throwing him at a spiny bomb. Only 1 hit is needed, except during the final battle, and that's because it can be challenging to try and throw him in the right spot. The same cannot be said for Sunshine's final boss, which is comically easy. Overall, revisiting Super Mario 64 for this episode was a fun experience, though there are some things about the gameplay that haven't aged quite well, namely the controls, which we already dedicated an entire section to. This is where Sunshine has the advantage of coming out 6 years later to learn from these missteps. It's kind of a wonder to me why people think Mario 64 is the better game. Because after playing both of them back to back, I can easily say I had more fun with Sunshine. The same basic formula from 64 applies here. Multiple courses, multiple stars for each level, different ways to get them. It's just that the activities here are way more fun. From killing a massive manta ray and its minions, cleaning the mouth of a gigantic eel, using a rocket nozzle to blast yourself high in the sky. Yoshi's playable. I mean, it's gotta end there, guys. Come on. Make no mistake, both games are incredibly fun. It's just that Mario Sunshine is more fun, which is why it wins this battle for gameplay. So there you have it. With Super Mario 64 winning the battles for music and level design, and Super Mario Sunshine winning hub world, controls, and gameplay, Sunshine achieves a glowing victory for this game versus game battle. It's strange, really. I went into this battle thinking that Mario 64 would be the clear winner, but to my surprise, Sunshine was the one that turned out to be the more refined experience that I had the most fun with. I think what really makes Super Mario 64 adored the most is its legacy, being one of the first truly great 3D games in the history of gaming. But that is a story for another time. This means that Super Mario Sunshine will go head-to-head with Super Mario Odyssey come later this Marioctober. We can't wait to see what Odyssey brings to the 3D Mario table and how well it stacks up to Mario Sunshine. If you don't agree with our winning choice and you think Mario 64 is better, let us know what you think in the comments section below, but please, keep it civil, there are children here. A very special thanks goes to our patrons, including royal producers Transcendent Sacred Courage and Kenyatta Ali, for their generous contributions to the realm. If you want to know more about how you can support the channel and get exclusive content such as our weekly podcast, then visit patreon.com/commonrealm. In the meantime, this has been the Commonwealth Realm, and we will see you, girls and guys, soon.